Go ahead, the record setter.
Good evening. The meeting of the Monroe Township Board of Education will come to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
May we have a roll call, Mr. Gorski?
Ms. Antelis.
Here.
Ms. Arminio.
Here.
Mr. Braverman. Mr. Chiarella.
Here.
Mr. Kaufman.
Here.
Mrs. Kolpunowicz.
Here.
Mr. Nothstein. Mr. Poi. Mr. Prezioso. Mr. Zarneski.
Here.
Madam Board President, you have a quorum this evening, and Mr. Poi and Mr. Prezioso will be joining us at some point during the meeting via teleconference.
Thank you. In accordance with the provisions of the New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law, the Monroe Township Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted July 18, 2014, 1 at all schools, 2 Home News Tribune, 3 Cranberry Press, and 4 filed with the clerk of the municipality. And before we go into the girls' varsity competition cheers, I'm sure most of you have either read the agenda or have seen a lot of the newspaper articles that have been written lately. Dr. Hamilton will be resigning this evening as the superintendent of Monroe Township School District. And because we needed to, as of, I believe, August 1st, in order for us to appoint an interim, we need to have 6 votes this evening. And since Ms. Antelis and Mr. Kaufman cannot vote, we only have 5 eligible people here to vote. Therefore, we would like to waive our policy 0164 so that we can have a teleconference with Mr. Prezioso and Mr. Poi. So it is recommended that the Board of Education suspend application of the medical condition requirement of Board Policy Number 0164.2, Board Member Participation at Board Meetings using electronic devices, to permit members Anthony Prezioso and Douglas Poi to participate in a portion of the Board's public meeting this evening. So I need a motion and a second.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Antelis, Mr. Nothstein. Is there any comments or questions by members of the board? Mr. Nothstein?
Yes, I'm always skeptical of waiving or putting aside a policy that's been in effect. What would the procedure be going forward so that we could possibly put this to the committee, the policy committee, to revise this policy in the future so we don't have to waive it, so that we could maybe allow for situations where we won't have a quorum, and we could specify that as a condition of having an electronic phone-in? Or better yet, I would really like to see it with, we had the iPad technology, we could easily do, FaceTime or something.
That would have legal ramifications. We would have to check with the board counsel. If that would be okay, we can send that to the policy committee to look at revisions.
And how would, could we get that going after this meeting?
Yes, we
'Cause,
can.
again, I think that
We'll do it tomorrow.
This is a perfect example where we may need an exemption to this rule, and we shouldn't have
Right.
to waive, or if we didn't get this resolution passed tonight, we would be in quite a bind.
Right, because we wouldn't be able to appoint an interim until the August meeting, and therefore Dr. Hamilton would have to stay till the August meeting and work 2 jobs. So, Michelle?
Yes, with that said, I agree with Mr. Notstein, and I'm concerned about if we had an issue the next time, it would be either arbitrary or subjective, and I'd like to see some consistency. When do you waive policies and when don't you? I think it would be difficult unless we had something in writing, and I just don't want anything to be subjective. In one case it's allowed, in another case it's not. It just doesn't seem appropriate.
Right, we checked, and I only remember one other time where we had to wait, in all the years that I've been on the board, one other time where we had to waive a policy for an issue, and I can't recall offhand what it is. We did check with our attorney today, and she said in this case it would be appropriate to do so because of the interim position.
So then in another case, it might not be appropriate, is what you're saying?
It depends on what we are.
All right, and therein lies the problem, because if you make exceptions for one issue, I'm concerned about another issue being maybe important to some members and not important to others, and it not be waived.
Yeah, we would have to look at the policy and decide. And I'm not even sure with a policy revision, we can come up with every situation that would be appropriate or not appropriate, but we send it back and have the policy committee look at it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, roll call?
Yes. Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Mr. Nostine.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Recuse.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
No.
Ms. Arminio.
Yes.
Ms. Antelis.
Recuse.
Madam Board President, motion to suspend Board Policy 0164.2 passes.
Who do you have as the second for that motion?
Mr. Nostine.
Mr. Nostine. Okay, thank you. At this time, we will go to the girls' varsity competition cheer presentation. Dr. Hamilton, are you?
I'm going to ask Mr. Greg Byer to come up and make this presentation and let us know what our girls are being recognized for tonight. I should say what our team is being recognized for tonight. Yes, sir.
This is the best part of my job. We've had a banner season in athletics this year. We've had division champs, county champs, district champs, state champs, national champs, and now we have a grand national championship. You can clap for that. Last year, our girls won the national championship. This year, they went a step further. They won, 2 steps further, actually. They won the state championship. This year, they won the national champion, and they won a grand national championship. That means that the competition that they participated in, they not only won their division, but they had the highest score of everybody in the competition down in Florida. So we should... I don't think people realize how hard these girls worked. Most of them are a little conscientious right now because they just finished practice about 15 minutes ago. Some said my hair's out of place, I'm sweating a little bit here. The gym was freezing last night and it wasn't cold tonight, it was very warm. So they're a little bit apprehensive, but they're excited to get their rings. One thing, ladies, when you get your ring, I know this is the first time you're going to see it, wait till everybody gets them. The other thing is these rings are guaranteed, so if the size doesn't fit, all you have to do is call Jostens up and they'll resize it for you. Okay? And now I'd like to call up Coach Carissa Titus. She did an absolutely fantastic job with these ladies. She is going to announce each one. Ladies, when we call your name up, Dr. Hamilton, do you want to present?
Sure. Kathy, yes.
Ms. Titus will give you your certificate, and Dr. Hamilton will present you with your ring. Ladies, why don't you just come around here so we can just come around. Ladies, come around on this side here.
It's easier moving the
Just talk high. Okay.
I don't think you want to do that.
All right, first up, Paige Allbeck. She couldn't be here tonight. Jessica Albrecht.
Here, Kathy.
Michaela Agresto. Sabrina Chaffee. Kayla Coughlin. Alyssa Dabrowski. Kara Dalton, who is not here as well. Victoria Gianola. Marianne Glade. Brianna Guerrero. Gianna Iannone. Emily Kutz. Linda Marcano. Jenna Marshall. Kirsten Mims, she's not here either. Madeline Mullen. Thomasine Nadio. Anna Oji. Alyssa Purcell. Cynthia Russo. Ashley Salter. Megan Scroy. Taylor Smith, who is also a senior and she's at her college orientation. Justine Tarsillo. Ashley Terranova. Rebecca Tesler. Madison Tillum. Gianna Vasallo. Stephanie Vicuna. And Sunny Warden. Tonight is the culmination of a very successful and memorable season for the 2013-2014 Monroe Township competition cheer team. This team is not only recognized throughout the New Jersey as state champions, but also throughout the country as Americheer International Champions and International Grand Champions. And none of this would have been possible without the support and encouragement of so many people. At this time, I would like to take a minute to thank Dr. Hamilton and the entire Board of Education, not only for the support of this beautiful ceremony, but the rings that the girls were just presented. Our AD, Mr. Byer, who said we had to be grand champions to get another ring, and we're here. Our principal, Mr. Goodall, all the staff and teachers at the high school, the people in town for their generous donations, my assistant coach, Dan, who could not be here tonight with me, and especially the parents for their never-ending support and encouragement throughout the entire season. Finally, the team, your season began in June of last year, and we didn't end until about April this year. You worked hard and believed in us as a family. I could have not asked for anything more from you girls. You allowed me to have the coaching opportunity of a lifetime and to create memories that will live in our hearts forever. For this, I thank you.
I believe when you won this award last year, we told you if you come back, you needed to do a cheer for us. Yes.
All right.
Right, I am right. I am right. So if they're not prepared today, when you do it 3 years in a row, we do expect the cheer.
Okay, we could show you what we end practice on every year, every
That-
practice and every competition.
Okay.
Get in your huddle.
What?
I did tell them that last year.
I like that.
Yeah.
The sheer look of terror was awesome.
Every practice and every competition when we get off the bus with this, so it's our word. All right, one last time with our seniors in here. Family on three, say it loud, say it proud. 1, 2, 3, family!
Thank you and congratulations to all our cheerleaders. At this time, number 6 on the agenda, we're going to hold off for a few minutes because Ms. Thornton has not arrived. So we will go to the public forum. I'll give everybody a chance to clear out before we speak.
Lord, give me strength.
We wanted to see some folks around.
Well, I did too, but I wasn't specific.
Yeah, we could do that at the end of our meeting.
Maybe we should.
In fact, I think we should start doing that.
Okay, we'll go to the public forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak to the agenda, please come to the microphone and state your name and address for the record, and we will adhere to our 3-minute time limit.
Robert Roach, 18 Muirfield Boulevard. Congratulations to your cheerleaders. They did a great job. What I wanted to mention is that I object to the exception to the voting requirements, the policy. And the reason why is I understand the issue you have, but Dr. Gorman is the assistant superintendent of schools. So Dr. Gorman has replaced Dr. Hamilton, I'm sure, many times when he's been on vacation, been on trips. I think he went to London one time, if I'm not mistaken. But so someplace anyhow. I know you were out of the country, doctor. And I think for 1 month that could have sufficed. Dr. Gorman replacing Dr. Hamilton, and then when you had the full board to vote, I think that's much better. Now, a rule is a rule. You had the policy as a policy, and I agree with Michelle that once you start waiving policies here and there, there's no, where do you stop? I think you should stick with the policy as it is.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Mark Klein, 7 Crenshaw. Dr. Hamilton, I'm not going to throw mud. We're going to drop everything that's happened in the past. I can tell you I had a lot of respect for you. You knew that in the beginning, okay? I wish you all the luck in the world in Mount Vernon. But like any of us, when we change positions or we change jobs, you take the good, you apply it to your next position. Any mistakes that were made, I would hope are not made again. So I lay everything down. I wish you all the luck in the world. Be successful. I read your resume that they had printed, which is super. Unfortunately, things happen. So again, I wish you all the luck in the world.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. I appreciate that.
Good evening, Ira Tesler, 11 Elliott Drive. I'd like to congratulate the cheer team again. Very well done. And I just want to emphasize the importance of athletics in the school program as well as academics. A lot of these girls or a lot of kids may not be such academically inclined, and athletics as well as the arts keep them in school. So just want to make sure that moving forward, we keep the emphasis on athletics and programs and extracurricular activities as well as academics. Second thing is I'd like to congratulate Dr. Hamilton for moving on. I'd like to It was, wow, okay. I'd like to congratulate you for your new position. And I'd like to also, it may be a little premature, but congratulate Mr. Ventrello for becoming interim superintendent, hopefully tonight, and Mr. Higgins for taking over as interim as an Applegarth school. So I wish you all the best in your future endeavors, and good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ira.
Terese Ferroni, 81 Pergola, Monroe Township. I just want to wish Dr. Hamilton all the best. As a Jamesburg rep for 18 years, and I think Dr. Hamilton and I worked for 4 or 5, after 50, nothing's up there. So you carried through with a great respect and understanding of the relationship between Jamesburg and Monroe, which was started by Dr. Ferry. So we greatly appreciated that and wish you nothing but success in the future.
Appreciate it.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the agenda? No, this is not to the agenda. Then that would be at the second public forum at the end of the meeting.
What's going on with Dr. Hamilton tonight? I'm just kidding. It's all over Facebook. Actually, N, the amendment.
Would you like to please?
Lewis Masters, 9 McKellar Court. Sorry. I think I would remember, right? Item N on the business, the Comcast Business Communications. The additional 10 megabits. I'll wait for Mike to. Is there associated cost with that?
Yes.
Of course, we know how generous Comcast can be.
Yeah, I have it in here. The Comcast agreement that you have before you tonight is an amendment to provide utility services for the new leased property for special services. And if I recall correctly, the cost for those services is about $550 a month.
So there's nothing to do with the Common Core or any of those testing?
No.
Thank you. And then, of course, item B, Dr. Hamilton. I'm going to say something too. We haven't always agreed, especially on full-day kindergarten. We've had some really heated arguments about that, but that's okay. But best of luck. Thanks for all you've done. I'm sure it'll be great. Mr. V, thanks for stepping in over at, for Dr. Hamilton. And Mr. Higgins, thanks for helping out at Applegarth. I'm sure you'll be seeing a lot of us. He's in the back. I'm not going to turn around because then you'll yell at me. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one, we will go to the approval of the minutes for a special Board of Education meeting of June 9th, 2014.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella,
Second.
second by Mr. Notstein. Any additions or corrections? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Ms. Santellis, Mr. Kaufman, abstain. For the closed session meeting of June 9th, 2014,
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella,
Second.
Mr. Notstein, all in favor?
I have a question.
Michelle?
On the report, it was the superintendent's evaluation, the closed session, correct?
Yes.
Okay, there's no real minutes here, and it said that the summary report will be prepared by the board president. Has that been done?
Yes.
Is it in here?
It's in the official minutes back in the office, no.
So I wasn't able to review what the minutes were, what it said.
That was a superintendent evaluation?
Is that still,
Yes.
is that still considered confidential?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Antelis, Mr. Kaufman. Approval of the minutes for the Public Board of Education meeting of June 11, 2014.
So moved. Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Arminio. Any additions or corrections? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Abstain.
Ms. Antelis abstains. For the closed session meeting of June 11, 2014.
Second.
Mr. Notstein, Ms. Arminio, any additions or corrections? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? Ms. Antelis. Okay, that's it for the approval of the minutes. And we will now go to the committee reports. Are there any committees that need to report this evening? Mr. Kaufman?
Sure. We had a curriculum meeting recently, and the major topic point was for the insurance program, which we are going to start this year for our iPads. We've exhausted the 3-year term, I think it is, Jeff, 3 years on the iPads. So we are taking a approach to provide insurance for our devices, going to be paid for mostly, Michael, out of the operating fund.
Beg your pardon?
The insurance.
I'm sorry, I missed the question. I
Yeah,
was
so
calling
the
up.
question is, the cost for the insurance is going to be paid mostly through the fund that we already had in place for
iPads.
the.
Yes, there's $70,000 available in the fund from the proceeds from the students that can certainly contribute toward the cost of the insurance.
Correct. For this coming school year. We also did talk about what we are going to do as far as continuing the one-to-one initiative with devices as we move forward in time, so there will be more discussion on that in later months. So that was the big item up for bids on our curriculum meeting.
Anyone else have a committee report?
Question on the committee report?
You have a question?
Question on the committee report?
Sure.
I don't have it with me. I think it was in the Weekly Confidential. You spelled out some of the financials of the insurance versus self-insuring. Are we going to look at that further? Because I had a lot of questions with
All
regards
right, I'm going to put you on hold.
to-
We're just about to go into
I
this.
had a lot of questions with regards to how are we working out with the $50? Are we covering our costs with that, et cetera? So what is the next step for going forward with that?
I think we also agreed that in that meeting, we were going to bring it before the finance committee.
That is
as well.
correct.
Okay.
That is
thank
correct.
That we have to schedule a meeting with Anthony.
Okay, any other committees? Okay, at this time, we will go to the superintendent's report, Dr. Hamilton.
Hold on a second, let me just-
And we are in the process of, we have Mr. Prezioso on the line, and we are getting Mr. Poi on the line.
You want me to proceed, or?
Just 1 minute. They wanted to participate in that, so just 1 moment. Hi, Doug. You're just about to go into the superintendent's report. I'm going to put you on speaker now.
Mr. Poi?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Mr. Prezioso?
Mr. Prezioso?
Hi.
Okay.
Excellent. Please just, as we discussed, identify yourself if you wish to deliberate in the discussion. Thank you.
And speak as loud as you can. Hey, Dr. Hamilton, your superintendent's report?
Yes, just a few comments before I read my report. First of all, I'd like to thank the board and the community for an amazing experience professionally and personally. I have tried to live by a mantra to not to play where I work and not to work where I play, but in spite of that effort, I've made some friendships that will last forever, and I want to thank you for that. I've also had some experiences in the district that have had such an impact on me that it will shape me for the rest of my life. I've made some extraordinary connections with kids and staff and members that have just been amazing, members of this community. I enjoyed a partnership with the mayor, the town council, the police department that has been nothing but professional, respectful, and supportive. There are some career accomplishments that will shape the future of this town forever. And although this journey to becoming a district noted for innovation, progressive thinking, and among the best in the state and the nation has not been by accident, I have to pause to acknowledge the principals, members of the staff, students, and this board. And you should all be proud of what we've been able to accomplish in almost 6 years of this professional journey. And while I am excited about the next leg of this professional journey, I look forward to creating new opportunities for kids elsewhere, and it comes with a bit of sadness. So sometimes thank you just seems to be so inadequate, and this is certainly one of those times. But until something else comes along that's more appropriate, thank you will have to do. So thank you. Moving on to my swan song. The superintendent's report includes the enrollment data for the month of June comparing May of 2014, showing an increase of 108 children. And of course, I leave this board with an admonishment about the importance of pursuing the work with the ad hoc committee and the urgency associated with that. And I think you're in a very good place with the report that I have provided with you that has been revised several times to reflect what I believe is the direction that we ought to be going in. Also included in the report is the enrollment data for our outer district placements and our homeschool instruction, which you will note because of the summer session is significantly reduced. The fire drills and lockdown drills are also included in your report for your review and awareness for the month of June. And I will take the personnel report in order, but not moving everything at once so that certain items can be considered separately. So first, moving on to personnel item A, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve personnel item A by roll call vote.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella?
Second.
Ms. Arminio? Are there any comments or questions for Dr. Hamilton? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call.
Mrs. Koloponowicz,
Yes.
Mr. Poi,
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso,
Yes.
Mr. Nostine,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski, Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Ms. Arminio,
Yes.
Ms. Antelis is absent. Madam Board President, motion passes on Personnel Report A.
Thank you.
Moving on to personnel item B, Madam Board President and members of the Board of Education, it is recommended that the board approve the resignation due to retirement. Yours truly, Dr. Kenneth R. Hamilton, Superintendent of Schools, effective, that should read July 31st. Please note the correction.
Instead of
Mr.
August 1st?
Instead of August 1st, July 31st.
Mr. Notstein is the first. Is there a second? Mr. Chiarella? Any comments or questions? Ms. Arminio?
Yes. I will also like to thank Dr. Hamilton for all his work and achievements over the years.
I can't hear.
Please try to
Use the
speak up
microphone.
into the
A little bit
microphone
more?
as soon as,
Okay.
as loud as you can.
Okay. I'd like to thank Dr. Hamilton for his work and achievements over the years. And I say this next thing just as a matter of housekeeping for no other reason in terms of it's a retirement.
It is a
Correct, not a
retirement.
resignation. Okay. Does that mean a retirement can go at any time, or should we have had like a 60-day notice or a 30-day notice contractually?
Contractually, he has 60 days, but the board could let him go as soon as
Okay.
possible, and that's what we will be
That-
voting on.
That's
this
the
evening.
that's the housekeeping item.
Yes.
Now, is there anything that is rescinded because of that? I know in the new contract, I saw, are there any sick days or vacation days or anything like that that are rescinded because of that?
Madam?
Sure.
Because it's a.
The question
you're-
is, are any of those contractual items rescinded?
Yes, because of, we're waiving a contractual agreement, is that correct?
Yeah, the answer to that is no, I'm not aware of any rescindments. Dr. Hamilton would be entitled to any accrued sick or vacation time, which he would be paid out upon resignation.
As of June 30th, right? That's when.
As of
July
July
31st.
31st.
No, but I mean, the contract, okay, so we're going,
He had a new contract signed in
Right.
June, so this would be the first month of his contract.
and essentially, is that prorated until
Yes.
that, I guess, I'm sorry, that should have been the first question. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Chiarella?
Well, Dr. Hamilton, I'm going to vote yes, but I'm going to do this out of the kindness of my heart for you. But I just want to let you know that I'm going to miss you personally. I think you've done a great job for us, and I think you've done wonderful things for our children and for our district. And I wish you well. I think I consider you a friend, and I think that we will keep in touch. But I just want you to know that I am grateful for everything that you've done for us, and everything that you've given to this district since you've been here. I do have one problem with you, though. Isn't that probably 6 years ago? Was it 6 years ago when we hired you? During the interview, you told us what a wonderful cook you are and how you were going to cook for us and make desserts and everything else. And I'm here to tell you, not that I need it, but I'm here to tell you that I have not had one delicious morsel of your cooking. And so I will vote yes, but I just want you to know that that's gonna stick in here. Thank you.
Ms. Antelis?
Well, while we're talking about you, I also reluctantly will be voting yes. Ken, I just want to let you know that when I first met you, I thought you were one of the smartest people I had ever met. You have been such an asset. You've been such an asset to this district. You've brought grace, class, and dignity. Many people have called me and said they're going to miss your singing, but you will be missed, and I hope Mount Vernon really knows what an asset they're getting, and they're very lucky.
Thank you.
You'll be missed.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Zarneski?
It's been a short time that I've worked with you on this board, but I've heard of things that you've done in the past, and it's regretful that we have to let you go at this point with so many good things that are coming up and so many other things that you could have possibly done this future year. Good luck to you in the future, and best wishes to you and your family.
Thank you, Rob.
Mr. Notstein?
Dr. Hamilton, I've only worked with you for a short period of time, but I want to say it's been an honor, and I want to thank you for your service. And if you need any tips on getting to your new location, I know a lot of shortcuts, so please feel free to let me know.
I will tell you, I have already used one of your suggestions, and I appreciate that.
Mr. Poi, Mr. Precioso, is there anything you'd like to add?
I can hardly hear everybody. Mrs. Precioso.
Mr. Poi?
Yes, this is Doug Foy, and I would like to wish Dr. Hamilton well, and also let him know that I appreciate the service that he has given to the district, and I think that he has moved the district forward during his tenure with us, and I'm looking forward to his doing even greater things at Mount Vernon. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
Anyone else? Okay, then I'm going to add my 2 cents for what it's worth. Although I don't always think that it's been easy for you in Monroe, especially at certain times, you've always been committed to excellence and making Monroe one of the premier districts in New Jersey. And you've certainly put your name, our name, Monroe, on the map with innovative initiatives and programs. And I couldn't think of them all, but the ones I came up with, MECA, the Early Childhood Enrichment Program, being a pilot program for the new teacher evaluation system, becoming an AP honors district, raising our test scores, making sure we're ready for the park assessments, supporting all of our special education needs, the opening of the new high school and the middle school, getting an updated strategic plan put in place, putting together the ad hoc committee, and probably the most important, being named to the top 100 high schools in New Jersey. I think that is the icing on the cake. You truly care for our district employees, the total community of Monroe, and especially the students. And I think that was the most fun part that you've had, is dealing with the students, whether it was through academics, through sports, through music, and I know especially the group of students you met with monthly.
Yes.
On a personal note, I have truly enjoyed my time working with Dr. Hamilton as the board president. While we didn't always agree on everything, I always saw the passion that you had for our children and education in general. And I think that we have always been able to sit down and deal with our discussions and solve whatever disagreements we had, knowing that the bottom line always is and always will be what's best for children. And I know you will bring that same thing to Mount Vernon. And I've grown to have a deep respect for you, and I know also that a sense of humor comes in very handy. So I know that this is not an easy, or was not an easy decision for you to make, but I want to thank you for everything you've done for Monroe, and personally wish you the best in your future in Mount Vernon.
Thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. Thank you all for your very thoughtful and kind words. Appreciate it.
Hey, if there's no further conversation over here, then we will have a roll call on the retirement of Dr. Hamilton.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso?
Yes.
Mr. Nostine?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Recuse.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes, good luck, Dr. Hamilton.
Thank you.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion B passes.
Thank you.
Moving on with the personnel report. Madam Board President, members of the Board of Education, it's recommended by the superintendent that personnel items C through DD be approved by roll call vote.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Antelis, any comments or questions for Dr. Hamilton?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
On P, recommend the board approve the following changes from June 11th agenda. Were these mistakes or that we're approving? Looks like the difference in salary or steps, or is this just the moving on to the next step?
These are folks who should have been moved on to the next step based on inaccurate reporting from from that particular agenda. It's just a correction.
So these are corrections?
Correct.
Okay. So was that, I don't remember that being discussed in personnel. Was that correction made at personnel?
No, it was not.
Is it being made now?
It's being made now.
Okay. And S, is that, it's a nominal fee, but I'm just curious, is that a one-time stipend for each person for the year? Or is it a monthly?
That's a
S.
one time. Yeah,
One time?
One time.
For the year?
And yes,
Per year
and
for each
all
person.
schools have school goal committees.
Yeah, I have no problem with it, I just wanted to be clarified. And then, are you including EE and FF in this?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Notstein?
I'm not sure if you're including this in it, but I think on board action, on page 26S, the Board of Ed approved the previously submitted agreement. I don't know if you're referring.
We did not get to
Okay.
board action items yet.
Okay, good.
Anyone else?
Could you just repeat what we're voting on, the letters?
C through DD.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have a comment, a question? Then we will have a roll call.
Madam Board President, this is a roll call for board action items C through DD. Moved by Ken Chiarella, second by Amy Antelis. Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso?
Abstain.
Mr. Nostine?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Madam Board President, items C through DD passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to personnel. It is recommended, members of the Board of Education, Madam Board President, is recommended by the superintendent that the members of the board approve Mr. Dennis Ventrello as the interim superintendent of schools at a salary of $167,500 effective August 1st, 2014. Pending further action of the board, the salary will be prorated for time served as previously submitted contract.
Mr. Chiarella,
Second.
second by Mr. Notstein. Any comments or questions? Ms. Arminio?
Yes. This is a question, again, not on the personal level, but on a procedural level. The recommendation for Mr. Ventrello, or one person as the superintendent of schools, I'd just like to know how many were certified in the township, the district? In the district. How many potential candidates were certified?
Amongst the rank of the principals, I am aware of 2 who carry the chief school administrators.
Michael, you're going in and out. This is Prezioso.
Okay.
The question was asked, how many district employees were certified to hold the position of interim superintendent? That was asked by Ms. Arminio.
To my knowledge, there are 2.
2, okay. And
the assistant soup, so I should say 3.
so there were 3 plus,
Correct.
so there were 4?
No, 3 in total.
Three in total. And I know this is your recommendation, But could this have been also discussed at the Personnel Committee meeting?
Not at that time. It wasn't up for discussion at that time.
Okay, because I believe I received an email with your, discussing your resignation that afternoon. I didn't receive it until later, but the personnel meeting was that evening. And I thought it might have been appropriate for us to have at least an option through the Personnel Committee and an understanding of the procedure and the candidates.
I had not even thought about that at that point.
Okay, so it was potentially, we could have spoken about it at
Potentially.
Yeah. My only objection to this is that as a board, and this is, and I know we need to do this and move forward, but as a board member, when we're making decisions on an important position like this, I think we should have as many options as possible in advance. So I would hope that, we can sort of avoid this next time.
Okay.
Thank you.
Mr. Notstein?
Did any of the other certificated candidates express interest in this position?
No.
How long can an interim superintendent serve for? What is the maximum time frame, or is there?
I believe this particular motion would be, I believe the contract speaks for, I'm not sure.
It was June 30th.
It's 1 year.
I think it's a year, but it can be renewed.
After a year? Okay.
And it also can be, if we get somebody before that.
It can be, right.
Yeah, I don't know what you call that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, at this time, we will have a,
Madam President?
yes,
This is Doug Boyd.
Hi, Doug.
Could you, because I was having difficulty hearing them, could you somehow summarize the points that Mrs. Arminio brought up?
She was really looking to see who in the district could have been appointed to this position, and if there was any reason that it could not have been discussed in the Personnel Committee. And Dr. Hamilton responded that at that point he didn't have any recommendations to discuss in personnel.
Okay, thank you.
You mentioned, this is Anthony Prezioso, Madam President.
Yes.
You mentioned what Tom Nordstein just passed.
I can reiterate if you can hear me. Can you hear me?
I can hardly hear you.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, it is very difficult.
I was just asking if there were other candidates that were certificated that expressed interest in the position.
Did you hear that, Anthony?
No, I did not.
If there were any other candidates who expressed an interest in the position of interim superintendent from the district, and Dr. Hamilton said no.
Be all night so they can be home.
I also asked how long they could serve for.
Yes, and we had a discussion on the length of the contract that Mr. Ventrella would have, which is, the contract is till June 30th, 2015. It can be extended, or it can be, if we get somebody before that, then the contract would be over. Is that okay, Anthony?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually,
Now, Mr. Notstein?
One other question. I did look back to 2008. I was kind of curious because I'm a firm believer in duplicating success, and obviously we've had some success with Dr. Hamilton, and that's a good thing. But back in 2008, we actually had a closed session meeting just to go into and determine who was going to be the interim superintendent. Since I obviously wasn't on the board then, I'm just kind of wondering what is the thinking of sometimes going into closed session to discuss that and other times not.
I think at this time, it was a little different because Dr. Hamilton wanted to leave in a week, and we could not have had, well, there was no meeting scheduled before today. We wanted to have an interim in place, and I think it was, from what I heard from some board members, easier to have one that was in district and ready to take over than to do a search and find one out of district and start a interview from the board.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I think in the spirit of openness and transparency, that it's good for us to be able to have this conversation in public and not in closed session. So I think that this is something that we should be discussing in the open and not behind closed doors. So if anyone disagrees with this, that's what they should say, and they can vote no. Yeah, we'll have to work on that. So I just think that, you know, this is a good discussion to have in public.
The other thing is that I believe we got the resignation retirement letter last week. And because Dr. Hamilton wanted to leave in such a short amount of time, we had a lot of time constraints with getting an interim in place so that everybody felt comfortable and Dr. Hamilton felt good leaving the district in good shape.
And the recommendation, both of these, this recommendation and the upcoming recommendation was really made in an effort to be mindful of the costs associated with interims from outside and minimizing the disruption to the district. So that was the catalyst, although I did want to be released early. That notwithstanding, this was my recommendation to minimize the impact on the district.
Okay, so at this time, we'll have a roll call in accepting Mr. Ventrello as the interim superintendent as of August 1st, 2014.
Mr. Poi?
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso?
Yes.
Mr. Nostine?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman? Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion unanimously passes for Mr. Ventrello.
Point of order, I thought that the conflicted members can't vote.
I think we need to talk to an attorney because as a board member, we have the right to appoint a superintendent.
I do not believe that the conflicted board members can be any part of the superintendent search or vote.
Did we get that legal opinion?
I think it, I know we got something today, from.
Yeah, Ms. Antelis, I'll double check with counsel on that issue, but I believe that Mr. Nostine's comment is correct.
I didn't see her.
We can ask Gwen Thornton, I'm sure she knows.
I believe we should probably count it as a recusal and then go on, and we could change it if Vi's position
I'll
is
have to leave it
different.
as a yes, and if I have to, you can change it. But I believe I have the right to vote on it.
As you wish. Madam Board President, motion still unanimously passes.
Thank you. And Mr. V, and as soon as we're finished with the personnel items, then I will introduce you to those people in the public who do not know who you are, which I'm sure is very few.
Okay, moving on to personnel item FF. Madam Board President, members of the Board of Education, it is recommended by the superintendent that Mr. Kevin Higgins be approved as acting principal of Applegarth School effective August 1st, 2014, pending further action of the board.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella?
Second.
Second by Ms. Antelis. Comments or questions from members of the board?
Madam President, this is Mr. Prezioso.
Yes, Mr. Prezioso.
Would this position be filled, this vice principal at the high school?
I do not.
Be replaced.
I do not believe that position will be replaced at the high school.
So he will. There won't be anybody taking over his position, correct?
No, there's three vice principals at the high school right now. There will be 2 after this appointment.
Excuse me, Madam President.
Hiring another person to replace him.
No, we are not.
I understand that.
No, we are not.
I can't hear what he said. Could you have him repeat that, please?
Mr. Prezioso was questioning if the position of Mr. Kevin Higgins would be replaced at the high school. We have 3 vice principals at the high school right now. Mr. Higgins will leave to go to Applegarth and will not be replaced at the high school. Therefore, we will only have 2 VPs at the high school.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes. My argument is the same for FF. Were there any other candidates considered for this position?
Yes, others were considered by me. I am recommending Mr. Higgins because it minimizes the impact again, number one, and number two, there's no additional cost to the board to do so, and number three, Mr. Higgins has the elementary experience that I think is necessary and could assume this role effortlessly.
Okay, and since this is my first vote on such a matter, is it normal procedure that it would be discussed in personnel and then the board would be given 1 or more candidates and then there would be an interview as well?
If this was
Would that be the normal procedure?
If it was a permanent position, yes, the superintendent can recommend an acting position. Just for clarity, the difference between acting and interim is an acting position. That person is filling in for a position that is not a true vacancy, meaning someone else has rights to that position.
And how long is the acting position?
Until the need no longer exists, meaning until the interim, in this case, returns to the position.
So I take it Mr. Higgins is certificated also for?
Yes, ma'am.
Once you're a vice principal, you're also
It is
certificated
the
for
same
principal?
certificate.
Okay.
Yes.
And an acting position, I know in some, like law enforcement, that has to, if you go into a full position, that would have to be voted on by the board once again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, we will.
Madam President.
Yes, Mr. Prezioso?
I can't hear too well, but would this position be a permanent position for him, or are we
No.
looking for a principal also at Oak Tree?
No, first of all, it's Applegarth School. We are not looking for a permanent position. When we get the permanent superintendent, Mr. Ventrello will go back to being the principal of Applegarth, and Mr. Higgins will go back to being a vice president at the high school.
Principal.
So this is a very limited time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So we will have a roll call for approving Mr. Higgins as the acting principal of Applegarth School.
Mr. Poi,
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso,
Yes.
Mr. Nostine,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski,
I believe I need to be left out of that one.
do you wish to abstain?
Yes.
So noted. Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Ms. Arminio,
Yes?
Ms. Antelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, item FF passes.
Thank you.
Moving on to the last set of rezos, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve by roll call vote personnel items GG through II.
So moved.
Second.
Mr. Chiarella, and second by Ms. Antelis. Are there any comments or questions by any members of the board? Ms. Arminio.
Okay. There are, according to my count, are there 5 new positions on this list? Created positions? Or approximately? Or is that,
Approximately, I didn't count them, but
you didn't count them? Okay, so where it says new position, that's a new position, right?
That is
So there's
correct.
5 new positions. And the pending certificate, when we have someone who's pending a certification, does that mean they have not had the state certification?
that means that the certificate has not been released yet.
But we know that
They are eligible.
They're eligible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else?
Oh, one more, sorry. And on 30, on page 20, the stipend for the Director of Adult Education is $17,500. Is that after school hours that job is done?
That is after school hours.
So it's not done during school hours,
It is not done during school hours.
any of that work that's done? Okay, thank you.
Anthony or Doug, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, then we will have a roll call on, don't remember, GG to II.
Mr. Poi,
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso,
Yes.
Mr. Nostine,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Ms. Arminio.
Yes.
Ms. Antelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, items GG to II passes.
Thank you. And would you like to do your board action items, and then I'll introduce
Okay.
Mr. Vinthal?
Madam Board President, members of the Board of Education, it is recommended by the superintendent that the board approve board action items A through U by roll call vote.
So moved.
Mr. Chiarella, Ms. Antelis, comments or questions by any member of the board? Mr. Nostine?
Yeah, I just have a question with regards to S. Could someone explain what that is, please?
Is that S like Sam?
S as in Sam, yes, sir.
Yes, during negotiations, there was several members of the negotiating team became ill as a result of food poisoning, and it is recommended that we restore those sick days used as a result of that experience and exposure.
How many days are we talking about, roughly, average?
Just off the top of my head, 10 to 3, probably less than 20 days.
Were there doctor certificates attesting to this sickness? Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Anyone else?
Yes, I'm sorry.
Mr. Chiarella?
I just have a question on you. The vandalism incident that cost us $150?
Yes.
Is the parent being charged for this?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Ms. Arminio?
On P, the learning through gardening for Barkley Brook, do we need to supply matching funds? I think it's a grant.
What number are you on?
P.
No.
From New Jersey Agricultural Society Learning.
No.
And how, do we know how much they're giving us?
I think it's
I think it's a
actually in
wonderful
here.
idea. Just curious as to what we're getting.
Madam President, I hear you fine, but I can't hear the other speakers.
I know, Anthony, it's kind of difficult because they're pretty far back.
Can you repeat what,
They had, do you have the agenda in front of you?
no, I do not right now, no.
Then I would have to read the agenda to you, but they had some questions on,
Dr. Hamilton, that's okay.
excuse me?
I can get that another time.
Okay.
I'm satisfied.
Ms. Arminio, with regard to that Agricultural Society grant, I believe that what was delineated in the grant was specific supplies, soil, beds, plants,
Yes.
veggies, all kind of things like that, and there was no total price associated with that.
Oh, they're just actually giving us the items?
Yes, to my
Okay.
recollection, it was the
Thank you.
items.
Yeah. And it's in your backup, actually.
Well, I did see that.
Oh, okay.
But okay,
And there is no matching, as Dr. Hamilton said.
okay, thank you.
Anthony, there was also a question about sick days that are being given back to those MTEA employees who were sick after a bout of food poisoning during negotiations. There was also a question on a vandalism cost and if parents were going to be invoiced and pay for vandalism that their children.
That's the question that
Yes.
what was the answer?
The answer is yes, that the parents will be responsible for the cost of the vandalism.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Anyone else? Okay, then we will have a roll call.
Mr. Poi,
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso,
Yes.
Mr. Nostine,
Yes, except for S as in Sam.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski,
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella,
Yes.
Ms. Arminio,
Yes,
Ms. Antelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, Board action items A through U passes.
Okay,
That
then.
concludes the superintendent's report.
well, thank you.
Last one.
Take a bow.
Don't get too many of them. Before we go to the business administrator's report, I would just like to introduce Dennis Ventrello to members of the public. He has graciously agreed to accept the position as interim superintendent so that he could be a help to our district and our board as we move through the transition timeline. The board, being mindful to the community and trying to be fiscally responsible, felt that, or some of us have felt that we needed to have an in-house interim candidate instead of spending a lot of money for a per diem candidate from outside the district. And Mr. Ventrello, as we know, has the chief school administrator certification and required for the position, and therefore Dr. Hamilton had recommended him for the position. It is my belief that he does not plan to apply for the superintendent position, but looks forward to becoming the principal of Applegate School when the new superintendent is appointed. But as I always say never. I asked him for a little bit of a bio so that people who have not been familiar with him will have an idea of what he's accomplished in our district. He has 42 years of service, 23 of them as principal. He started as an elementary and high school art teacher, teaching at every grade level. He became the arts department chair supervisor, And during his tenure over the years, he's been the district director of testing, the district director of talent and gifted program, the director of community education, public relations, and community volunteers. He's been the district affirmative action officer, and he has central office experience as the administrative assistant to the superintendent, Dr. Marasco, at that time. He has opened up 3 new schools under 3 different superintendents: Brookside under Dr. Marasco, Oak Tree under Dr. Ferry, and Applegarth under Dr. Hamilton. And he is currently the president of the Monroe Township School Administrators Association. And outside of our district, he has taught for many years as an adjunct instructor at Georgian Court. He has been a state-trained mentor for new principals in their Leaders to Leaders program, and he is a guest lecturer at the New Jersey Principals and Supervisors Association. So I believe that Mr. Ventrello has all the qualifications needed to help in the transition of our administration and helping our administration by becoming our interim superintendent. So Mr. Ventrello, I don't know if you would like to say something to our public and our board, because I believe there might be some board members who have not had the pleasure of meeting you. And welcome.
Personally, I think I pale by comparison to the cheerleaders. Thank you, Kathy, and all the members of the board for the appointment as interim superintendent. I'm humbled and I'm honored, obviously. I see this temporary interim position as one of shared leadership, though, with the board, central office staff, principals, schools, administrative teams, MTEA, teachers, parents, and residents all working together for the benefit of our students and district. A school district success, as we all know, is the result of all the stakeholders working together for the sake of the students. Speaking of working together, I also want to acknowledge to the board, I know full well as far as the respect that you have and the reverence that you have for Mike Gorski as your business administrator and board secretary. I want to let you know is the fact that I've worked with Mike probably for the past, 15 or 16 years. We certainly have a very strong working relationship together. With that said, as I would expect even on a daily basis, taking over this position, which I'm thinking is only going to last for about 3 weeks, is that right? Is that I'll be working daily with Mike. Mike can handle obviously all the financial concerns of the district. I'll be working educationally with the building principals and with Dr. Gorman, as a matter of fact, as far as the curriculum and the educational programs. So I think that's a great coin, both sides of that coin going forward. We're at a critical juncture. I've been here many times, as a matter of fact, in my 42 years, as far as now coming to the point where you have to select a new superintendent. It's probably the most important decision the Board of Education can make. Let me clarify. It is the most important decision that you can make as a board member. I encourage everyone to give their full support behind me, to give their full support to you as far as cooperation as you go through this transitional process. If that means, as a matter of fact, you know what, if they can give you some cookies, that'd be great. If they can give you a pat on the back, that'd be great, because it's really going to be a very arduous task picking a new superintendent. You should be prepared for this. Some of you have already experienced it, obviously, as Dr. Hamilton came on board. It's happening again. Everyone in the district should appreciate the task and the hard work that's ahead of you. On behalf of the entire district, obviously, I want to say goodbye to Dr. Hamilton as well, too. He's an outstanding leader, dedication to our school district. He certainly has moved us from point A to point B. He will be successful in Mount Vernon, there's no doubt about that. Now, and I need to digress here just for a second. Ken has a very melodic, fine singing voice. I do not. So if
but can you cook?
I was going to say that they can make some cupcakes. So just want to let you know the fact that I will not be singing if it comes to that day, as far as the delayed opening or school closing, I will not be singing those alerts. Just want to let you know that, Noah. Lastly, good luck to all the board members. I mean, we worked together for many years, as a matter of fact, and as I said, this is a tough time. But also at the same time, and Kathy made it quite clear, is that my intention is obviously just to step up, pitch in, only because I'm the senior administrator, help you out. That's my only intention on all of this. And then I'd like to return back to Applegarth with your permission, as far as wrapping up my career there with the kids, the staff, the parents at Applegarth School. With that said, I wish you good luck as you go forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Dennis, but before you go, I want to personally thank you and the association, the group of people that you represent. You have been a fine example of leadership in the district, and my recommendation to put you in this position was not done lightly. It's because I believe you can do the job and will do the job. I remain available to you to assist in any way I can through the transition. You will find things in order, but of course, if you need my help, I'm just a phone call away.
Thanks, Kevin. Thank you.
On speed dial?
On speed dial.
And I would like to introduce Mr. Kevin Higgins to those people in Applegarth School who will be working with you. And I don't know if you'd like to come up, because I didn't have time while I was away to ask for your bio. Everything happened so quickly.
Thank you very much. Hello, I'm Kevin Higgins. I'll be the acting principal of Applegarth School. I want to thank you all for your confidence, Dr. Hamilton, Mr. Ventrilla, and everybody else who had a part in this decision. I'm looking forward to helping the folks at Applegarth and keeping the ship righted as we move along in this endeavor. So thank you very much, and I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we'll go to the business administrator's report.
Madam Board President and members of the Monroe Township Board of Education, it is recommended that board action items A through BB be approved by consent roll call.
So moved.
Second. Second by Ms. Antelis. Are there any comments or questions for Mr. Gorski?
On the bill list, I noticed, could you explain, is it DocuServe? DocuSense.
Yes. Yes. DocuSense is a vendor that you'll see throughout the bill list.
I'm sorry?
DocuSense is a vendor that you'll see throughout the bill list. They provide toner and also paper to the district, which is considered an instructional school supply.
Okay, and is that $48,000 a month, approximately?
It varies. I don't want to say that.
Okay.
And everything is procured under state contract with that vendor.
This is a state contract vendor, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
And so it could, all right, so for for the month of May, it was $48,488.
Yes.
I'm sure you're better at addition than I am, but. And the Apple computer was $13,635, the bills totaled. Some were replacement, repair, general supplies, so there were differences. The general supplies at Barclay Brook were $4,488. What was that for? Was that new iPads? Or-
There were new iPads in the budget. I'm not sure if that expenditure was purchasing new iPads. Most of the items for Apple that you'll see throughout the bill list this month are repairs, and they're paid for through the funds collected from parents.
Right, but those are the low numbers. The iPad replacement or repair is like $245. The general supplies at Barclay Brook are $4,488, and it's there twice.
Yes, I believe that is a new iPad purchase for enrollment growth that was in the budget.
Okay,
But I'm at a bit of a liability because I don't have the invoice in front of me, but I believe that's correct.
okay.
And the other items are part of the school's budget for the 14-15 school year, and you'll see more of those as they come up, as those purchase orders are processed.
And does it say, and that's in 10, is that the Fund 10?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Notstein?
With regard to BB, Mr. Gorski, is this that contract that we talked about at Finance, that they were actually potentially entitled to a 2%, but you negotiated to a 0? Is that accurate?
Which vendor is that?
This is for the garden irrigation, for the snow removal?
Yes. That is the item that we discussed in Building Grounds Transportation Committee. And it was the recommendation of that committee to the board to continue and renew another year on that contract with no increase. So we will continue on at the advantageous prices that the district enjoyed in the prior year contract.
Good job.
Thank you.
And one more, yes. On the other capital project determination, the alterations to the middle school, Would there be a more detailed itemized list? Because it just talks about the money, it doesn't talk about what's actually being done.
You can certainly stop by our office and we'll give you any information you want on the renovations at the middle school. I'm glad you brought that up. Madam, if you would indulge me, I'll just give the board a brief update on what's gone on. The roof has been hindered because of some of the heavy rain that we've had, but we're about 40% through the instructional roof replacement project. You'll notice a lot of workers up on the roof, and that was long overdue, and it's kudos to the board for including that capital project in the budget, and we are addressing that now. Additionally, there are site improvements that were part of a ROD grant, and you'll notice that there is asphalt milling and will be resurfaced soon, as well as curbs and internal renovations to the school.
Could I just ask about?
Beg your pardon. Let me. There was one more thing I was remiss in addressing: the hazardous material, the asbestos remediation. All of the asbestos containing materials in the middle school, in the floor tiles, and in the non-friable asbestos has all been removed now, and we had a 100% clean test of the air and materials in the building to show that there are no residual asbestos contaminants at all.
Okay. And the hazardous materials abatement isn't a number, so it wasn't on this capital improvement one? There is no cost for that on here.
Yeah, that contract was probably previously approved.
Okay, and how about, what is the 10 years of useful life, $10,000? F and E, more than 10 years of use, is that like a warranty? Building construction.
Where are you getting that from, Ms. Arminio?
Building construction cost by building system. It was section 19. It just said $10,000. I was curious.
Is that on the bill list?
It's on, no, it's on the contract.
It's a backup material? Just give me a moment, I'll find that.
I can get it another time. Just something I'd like the answer to.
If you wish, you can call me,
wait.
and I'll be happy to explain that
We can discuss
more.
it next
Yes.
month if we have to. Thank you.
Anyone else? Seeing no one, we will have a roll call on the business administrator's report.
Mr. Poi,
Yes.
Mr. Prezioso,
Yes.
Mr. Nustine.
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman.
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski.
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella.
Yes.
Ms. Arminio.
Yes.
Ms. Antelis.
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz.
Yes.
Madam Board President, board action items A through BB passes. And Madam Board President, I would like to conclude my business administrator's report tonight by very sincerely thanking Dr. Hamilton for his many contributions to the district's fiscal affairs during his tenure and our 4 years serving together this fine community. We achieved many historic accomplishments, new milestones, and it's with a great sense of accomplishment, yet despondency, that I wish Dr. Hamilton continued success and the very best in his future endeavors.
Thank you kindly, Mike. Appreciate you.
Okay, at this time, we will go to the board president's report, and I just want to discuss, I know I sent an email out to the board members about the superintendent search. So there are a couple of ways that we can do a superintendent search. We can go through New Jersey School Boards Association, we can go through a search company, or we can do a search by ourselves. And I think we have to get the costs, because I don't have the costs of what it would be for school boards. I know that some search companies have already inquired if we will need them, and I don't know what the cost would be for doing that. I do remember, Ms. Antelis, that we had when you were doing this as board president with Dr. Hamilton, we had an issue with and I don't remember what had happened. So I know
it was just a mix-up with letters, actually.
Okay, because I know we ended up doing the search by ourselves.
Yeah, well, that was a board decision to
Yeah.
do the search ourselves.
So I think it's something that we need to think about, and hopefully at the next board meeting, we can come up with numbers and then have the discussion here in public and come up with the search and then start that search. So in order to be ready to start the search, I sent an email out to everybody about the qualifications you're looking for in the next superintendent. So I thought we would have that discussion. And I sent you some examples, so if we want to have that discussion now, then we're ready when we hire a company to help us with the search. So I'm going to throw it out to you, to anybody want to give us an idea of what you would like in the next superintendent. And Mr. Zarneski, I know you're an expert now because you just completed a search at Jamesburg.
I wouldn't say an expert, but
Well,
just
you're-
in going through it, we had looked at New Jersey school boards and the other organizations. I think there's 2 other ones that come recommended from other districts to us, and we decided to go with school boards only because of our familiarity with Gwen and the other staff at the School Boards Association. I knew most of them. They do come in from time to time and speak. I know Pat Duncan was one of them that came in when it came time for negotiations, so they helped us out each step of the way. Plus, the services that we pay for is, I think, cheaper than the outside districts. And again, just the familiarity and being that we know who's doing it and how it works step by step, it was just easy for us to do it that way. So that's where I would say we should go and honestly think about that.
Yeah, I know Ms. Thornton is supposed to be here, and not because we're hiring her, we're not hiring her, but she wants to give us the process of what we would go through as a.
They help you step by step through the way and anything, and if any board member has any question, they're always open to phone calls or emails, and they do get back to you in a timely manner. When you deal with outside organizations, sometimes you don't have that freedom or you're not comfortable with talking to us. I know a bunch of us veteran board members here, we've talked to them over the years, many a times on many different issues, and that's what makes it a little bit more personable, a little bit easier to ask questions and to get answers, so.
Okay. Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, I know that, we want to move as quickly as possible, but I think we should really be taking our time, making sure we get the right person and the right fit for this district. And I also think that there might be something to be said for allowing the next board to make the decision on who they're going to hire. Just because, we could have the potential of 3 new board members, and, with that possibility, you'd have new, what are we, 3 months out from the election? November, the beginning of November, right? So, you'd have an old board dictating what the new board's going to have to live with. I think that, we have an interim in place, as we do now, and get through the opening of school. And I'm not saying we shouldn't be looking. We should be looking, and we should be working toward that. But I don't think there should be any hurry to seat a board before the election, or before just so that I think it's fair, and the new board members would have a say if there are new board members. Hopefully, we have a good turnout, and we have a lot of candidates. But
Okay.
Just like to add something. I would agree with Ken that we let this go on not as long as possible, but do our research as far as what we do. I know one thing that benefited us when we were looking for a new superintendent in Jamesburg was the fact that we advertised through the New Jersey School Board's workshop through that end of October, and let the applications come in after that, because a lot of things happen that first couple months of the school, and a lot of administrators, a lot of principals, everybody else is down there during the workshops, that if we at least go through the application process, at least through then, that would definitely carry over until next year's board.
Mr. Notstein?
There's some things to be said for what Mr. Chiarella said, but quite frankly, as a new board member, I would love to rely more on the experience that we have with the board members that went through this already. I think that their input is going to be integral. I'm not saying that we should make a decision before November or January, but I think this is something that goes on all the time with the board. There's always, every year there's an election. I don't think that we should really be looking with that as the reason for going slow or going fast. The bottom line is we have to do neither. We have to go at the correct pace. We have to get the correct person for this job. This is the unequivocal most important job that I think we as a board are going to do. And with that in mind, I think that we have to proceed at the pace that's correct. Neither fast nor slow, but correct. So I know I'm going to be relying on a lot of the board members that went through this already. I've already gone back and looked at the minutes from previous meetings. Mr. Gorski helped me get some things that were mixed up on the website from '08. And so I'm kind of already looking, again, because about duplicating success. I think that this board hired Dr. Hamilton, and I think that we need to look for their expertise in this issue. So I, for one, think that it's good to hit the ground running. We're fortunate we have the right hand on the wheel right now with Mr. Ventrilo, and I think that with that in mind, that we just need to proceed in the most expeditious way possible, but getting the right candidate. Thank you.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes. I'd like to ask, during the process, can we solicit some of our stakeholders and maybe have a committee of parents, even some students maybe, just to get an idea out of what the needs are? So I'd like to propose that we talk about, even if we have to talk about the next meeting or a resolution, to invite some of our stakeholders in the process.
Well, it's exactly what I was going to bring up.
That's great.
But because I believe with both the search for Dr. Hamilton and the search for Dr. Ferry, we were very community inclusive process. So I know we had board members on the committee, we had central office administration, principals, supervisors, district staff members from like the elementary, the middle, the high school, parents, gated community members, and students. So while we don't want a big group of 50 people because it's intimidating for somebody to come in, if we can get a cross-section of the community, I think that would be very good. I know that the board members, they went through all the applications and were able to pick the ones that they felt needed to be looked at by the committee. I believe we may have had like 8 to 10. The committee does the initial interviewing, and when they get down to 3, 4 candidates, then it goes up to the full board, and then we do the rest of the work. So yes, I'm right on there with you with having the community be inclusive of the process.
Kathy, Gwen from
Yes.
New Jersey School Boards is 2 blocks away. She
Okay.
apologizes for her lateness.
Okay. Mr. Kaufman?
Madam President?
Yes. Doug?
I'm having considerable difficulty hearing the comments of the other members of the board. So I'm just wondering if there is any further need for me to stay on the line and be part of this meeting, because I really cannot clearly hear their comments. I can't hear them either.
I do not believe that we're going to be voting on anything else. Do we have any?
There is a resolution that'll follow closed session.
Can we handle the resolution
Yes.
without their vote? No, it would be okay for both of you if you do not need to participate anymore in this discussion.
Okay, I know this is the discussion you're currently involved in, and I have given that some thought, and I have relayed those thoughts to you, and they essentially are similar to what you just stated. So I really don't, as I said, I'm kind of sitting here at times just unable to hear most of the comments that other people are making. So
Okay.
I will discontinue my call at this time.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, gentlemen, for participating from your vacations. Appreciate it.
One question, please.
And thanks for your assistance.
Yes.
Closed session,
Yes.
what will we be discussing? Have we taken anything up?
We will be discussing the board update on RFP for legal services. We have an employee issue, and we have harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents. Those are the 3 items we will be discussing.
Okay, you won't need me then. All right then. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Mr. Chira.
Yeah, I just want to clarify something because I was thinking about what I had said. When I said candidates and turnout, I was talking about at the superintendent level. I wasn't talking about candidates and turnout for the election. So what I'm saying is that I hope that we get a lot of candidates and good turnout for that position, so that we have a wide.
Yeah, and
group
the
of people
email
to pick
that I
from.
had sent to everybody is not to come back today and have everything done, but to get you to think about where we're going and what we're going to need. And it's a lot of thought, and I really hope that by the next meeting, we can get this put in place. Mr. Kaufman?
Thanks. I just want to dovetail on something Tom said, and I agree with everything, just about what everybody said. This is my third go-around at picking the center seat individual, and for you board members, it's really not fun. It's long, and there's a lot of information that you have to collect in a very little time, and of course, interviewing anybody for any job is difficult. So this position is equally as challenging. I think what would be very helpful for everybody would be if we can all get copies of the job description that we had when we originally was looking for Dr. Hamilton, because you always want to start with something, and then the district has grown since then. So we could take what we were looking at that time and decide what do we want to add, change, or delete. I know for members of the public, Kathy did send out a communication on some of the things that the board members were looking at, or what kind of criteria. And I think we're going to build on that list as we go through the process. I know some of mine, even when we were looking for Dr. Hamilton, was certainly somebody with a doctorate's degree. At the time, one of the board members made a comment, and I can't remember who it was, do we want to set that bar that high, or should we lower it and set a wider net? And really, wider net, not good, because we got a lot of candidates with the higher bar. If we lowered the bar and asked for people that were maybe not doctorates, then it's going to take a year just to go through resumes. So some of the things that I remember that we looked at that time was that they had their doctorate's degree, that they were superintendents previously. I don't look at Monroe as a training ground. I think people that we should be considering have already had a superintendent's position, because it is challenging. And these are things that we could all hash out as we move forward. Certainly somebody with experience at a district of maybe our size would be nice, because it does add a level of complexity with the number of schools and those types of things, as well as things like if they've had prior redistricting experience or other things that we know that we have either had in this district or maybe having in the near future. So much more dialogue to be had on that. But I just want to reiterate, one of the first things I had to do when I got here was to start the search for Dr. Ferry. I got here, literally my first day was, I think, Jim Sheeran's first day at that very, very first meeting. So it was very challenging for me, being the new kid on the block, really not even knowing the depth and the breadth of the questions that you really need to ask, and certainly not knowing the inner mechanics of the district, which is very vital on making the decisions that we have to move forward. So for new board members, I welcome you, because it's going to be a wild ride.
It's been a lot of late nights.
A few things. I think that whether we move fast or slow, whatever the pace is, I don't think it really matters about a superintendent and a new board voting on it, because regardless of whether we're on the board or not, we're still taxpayers and we're still residents and we still have a stake in this. So I think it should just be taken at the pace as it goes, and not slow it down or speed it up. I would be in favor of having school boards do this, only for the reason, I know we had a problem with them last time. I think it was a minor problem. I think we're a more cohesive board, and I think it's important to have somebody neutral right now. We have new board members, older board members, and I think somebody neutral handling this would really be our best bet. I know school boards was maybe about $6,000 last time. But that's my feeling. I would really rather see somebody from the outside handling at least the first few steps of this procedure.
Anyone else? Okay, well, that gives us a lot to think about, and I think, I have a feeling the next meeting will be longer. And hopefully we'll get through this process and have it made easier for all of us. Mr. Chiarella?
Yeah, how big are those blocks? Because if she was 2 blocks away.
She's here.
Oh, she is?
Yeah.
Welcome. Thank you. I said, man, those are some big blocks.
It's a rural community, so blocks are longer. I do apologize. There were terribly severe thunderstorms as I was driving down here, so, and they're coming. You can see the lightning as you come south. I was further north coming south, so I apologize for the delay. You can just drive so far, so fast in the rain, so I'm sorry for the delay.
I'm glad you're safe.
So.
And actually, you're here today to give us an idea of what the process would be for a superintendent search.
I am, and I have materials if I could distribute to the board.
And while you're doing that, I have a question for you, Gwen, and it regards myself and another board member who have family members working in the district.
Yes.
Are we allowed to be a part of the superintendent search?
You are not. You are conflicted out. The School Ethics Commission has expanded the definition of conflict, and there is some indication that we have from advisory opinions that indeed not only are you conflicted out of the process, you're conflicted out of the selection process of how the process actually moves forward, is our understanding. But certainly that could be verified with your counsel.
I know.
If we wait for Mr. Notstein, because I believe he stepped out, and when he comes back, you can start your presentation to us.
I'd be happy to do that.
Yes. Wait a couple minutes.
And while you're waiting, the information that I have distributed to you really outlines the process that School Board Association undertakes, and on page 3 you will see a matrix there that includes all of the services at the various levels of search. We have several levels of search at this point in time that is a little different than when Dr. Hamilton came to the district. I actually went back in my records and pulled the advertisement and the calendar for that search. The world is a different place. I'm really not going to talk about the process without everyone here, but while we are waiting, I thought it might be helpful not only to you but to your community to sort of understand the larger picture statewide currently with superintendents, because the landscape has changed since the last time the board did a search. One of the pieces that has changed that is superintendent salary caps. The governor saw fit when he came into office to create superintendent salary caps based solely on the population of school districts. And so as a consequence, it has had the net effect. You may have seen in the Wall Street Journal just this past Monday, there was an article on the impact of superintendent salary caps in the state of New Jersey and the resultant number of retirements that we have had. It varies county to county, but quite clearly in the last couple of years in Bergen County and Monmouth, we have lost 50% of our seated superintendents who have retired and in many instances have gone on to other states to continue to work. There are bills pending before the legislature currently, although I'm not sure they're going to be acted upon, that would eliminate that superintendent salary cap. It is due to sunset in 2016. Even if the legislature passes the legislation eliminating the cap, I am not certain that the governor would not veto it, nor am I certain that the legislature has the wherewithal to override that veto. The good news is that it has at least risen to the top of the public's consciousness, as it does not take into account educational background, years of experience, knowledge, and so forth. So in terms of public policy, it has had a chilling effect on the number of out-of-state candidates that we get. Additionally, since the last time we did a search, the state of New Jersey also passed a law called New Jersey First. And New Jersey First says that anyone who works in a public school district or for the state or a public state-affiliated agency or institution of any type, with some exceptions at colleges and universities for Fulbright scholars and the like, or exchange professorships, you have 1 year within which to move into the state of New Jersey. So for a lot of our districts that may be very close to other states, for example, I did a search in Cherry Hill at the time this law was passed, and we had several out-of-state candidates from Pennsylvania who were applicants who withdrew their applications once the law was signed into effect. So that too has had a chilling effect of attracting candidates from out of state into the state of New Jersey, because you only have a year within which to move in and become a resident of the state. Now you can apply for a waiver, but to that requirement, but there doesn't seem to be any consistent criteria that we can determine by which someone is granted a waiver or not granted a waiver. So those two pieces have had some impact on superintendent search in the state of New Jersey, and I thought it was just important to mention, not only for you as a board, but also for your community to understand the changing landscape of education. With that being said, to Amy's earlier point, this is the most important task that you are going to be faced with for the next 3 to 5 years. The reason it's 3 to 5 years is because by law, a minimum superintendent salary, contract is 3 years, a maximum is 5. The board does not have the option to extend to someone a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract. You must, by law, give someone either a 3, 4, or 5-year contract. So doing this in a very thoughtful way, in a very careful way, I think is very important. You can determine the time frame and the timeline based on your needs moving forward. It can be done in a compacted time frame depending upon what the board determines your needs are. My understanding is that you have enacting an interim for the time being, but that he is an administrator from another one of your buildings. So that does, of course, have a ripple effect on the buildings within your district as well. So you may want to do it in a more compacted time frame if your intent is to return that individual to his or her building in a timely way, or you can take it at a more leisurely pace if you are comfortable with having that individual in central office for an extended period of time. But that's a determination all of you would need to make. When I talk about search, I generally talk about the 6 C's of search, of about what a quality search looks like, and that begins with a comprehensive process. That's my first C. You want to make sure that you have a legally defensible search that is complete and thorough. When we do a search, will handle all of the details. We have an online application process, much different than even when we did the search for Dr. Hamilton. For those of you who may have students in college or gone through that college application process, you know what the Common App looks like. You go online, you can apply, and then you have college-specific essays to write when you're a student. We have a common app and then district-specific pages based on, and here's the second C, the criteria that the board establishes. We believe that establishing very firm criteria, to Lou's point, around having someone with experience in central office or someone who has experience as a superintendent or as an assistant superintendent, that would be an example of criteria, that you want someone that has those years of experience. You may want someone who has an earned doctorate. That would be another criteria. So the board needs to determine the skill set, the knowledge, the background, and the experience level of the individual they would like to see come here to the district. Candidates may go online, they request applications. By going online, it is sent to them, they fill it out. It's a rather comprehensive process. It includes all of their background and experience, their educational degrees, institutions, copies of their certificates so that we are sure that they hold the appropriate certificate. In order to sit as a superintendent in the state of New Jersey, you either have to have a chief school administrator certificate or a certificate of eligibility. You could have an experienced superintendent from out of state who is coming into New Jersey to work for the first time. They would have a certificate of eligibility and would have to go through a mentoring process. When 1990-91, the state eliminated tenure for superintendents. Superintendents prior to 1990 used to receive tenure the same way your staff receives tenure. At one point it was 3 years and 1 day. We now know it's 4 years and 1 day. When they eliminated tenure for superintendents in 1990 and went to contractual tenure, that 3 to 5 year piece I spoke of earlier, they eliminated automatic reciprocity for out-of-state certificates. It used to be if you had a valid certificate from Pennsylvania, New York, or wherever, you could use that certificate in New Jersey. They eliminated that automatic reciprocity when they eliminated tenure for superintendents. So even a seated superintendent from out of state who has a valid chief school administrator certificate in another state, when they come to New Jersey, they have to go through a mentoring process. But that is the one absolute requirement for anyone who wants to sit in the superintendent's seat, is they must have that specific certificate. So we ask them to include copies of all of their certificates. Typically, superintendents have come up through the ranks in education and typically have been teachers, principals, supervisors, directors, and may hold multiple certificates. We ask them for copies of all of that. We additionally ask them for copies of their latest evaluation from their current employer. We ask them to include, as part of the application process, copies of an evaluation they have written of a subordinate who's doing an outstanding job, and also an evaluation of a subordinate who's in need of improvement. We've asked for that for several years, long before Achieve NJ and the new evaluation model, because we do believe that maintaining and recruiting and retaining high-quality staff is absolutely critical to the success of a school district and is a large part of the superintendent's job. As you know, the board can employ no one without the affirmative recommendation of the superintendent. It also gives you a writing sample. We also ask you to identify, as a Board of Education, 3 or 4 areas in your district that are of importance to you. So, for example, if you were experiencing, as you were several years ago, great enrollment growth and you were about to undertake the construction of this wonderful facility, you might have asked the superintendent to write, and the candidates, not the superintendent, but all the candidates for that position, to write about their actual experiences with referendums, construction, and building projects, because that's a skill set clearly that someone would have need to have to come here to be successful as you are undertaking this particular project. So we ask them to do that. So as you can see, it's a rather comprehensive application process. All of the materials that we collect belong to you, the board. They are all returned to you, the board. They're not ours, they're yours. So you get every single piece of paper that we take in. But by our handling all of that, it comes to the next C, which is confidentiality. In all likelihood, the next person who will take the seat as superintendent in Monroe Township is probably, in all likelihood, currently employed in another school district. They may or may not have shared with their Board of Education that they're looking to move to another district or to take another position. And so maintaining confidentiality of all of those materials is key to the success of your search. Different states, I understand it, handle it differently, but in the state of New Jersey, among superintendents and candidates for that position, there is an expectation that confidentiality will be maintained. And so that's a particularly important component to the process. Once you have advertised, all of the applications have come forward, you've identified all of those materials, I bring them all back to the board. I divide the pool of candidates into 3 categories. Those individuals who have applied who meet and exceed the criteria you have established. Those individuals who meet the criteria, and believe it or not, there are always some people who apply who do not meet the minimum criteria. You could not interview those people and have a legally defensible search, but you receive all of those materials regardless. I will work with you, the board, to help you identify, because all decisions belong to you, the board. We are really a flow-through person. We are a facilitator. We are not the decision maker. The decisions are made by the full Board of Education. And it is here's the next C, a consensus process. The board, and I think you will find that it really is a very engaging process that really does unify boards, because you're going to have to come to agreement around who you would like to interview. I always urge my boards to be more inclusive than exclusive, especially on the front end, and to spend your time interviewing all of those individuals that the board identifies you believe have the knowledge, the background, the educational experience, and the skill set to be successful here in Monroe. Every district is unique, and we recognize that. I've worked with your board and your district for several years. I feel I have a really good knowledge and understanding of your district, but not the same kind of knowledge and experience that all of you have, because you live here, you work here, your children go to school here, and you are the people elected by your community to make these decisions. And so we're here to help facilitate that process, to help you all make the very best decisions you can for all the children and all of the citizens in your community. And so once you have identified who you would wish to interview, we will set up all of the interviews. We will handle all of the directions around getting them here, where you would like to have them, the length of those interviews. We will customize questions that you identify. One piece that some boards do not choose to do it. Very often we do it. I did it for the last search. I think it's helpful, is to meet with groups of your community and groups of your staff to get their input. We use their input for candidate review documents and to help generate interview questions. Your staff particularly has a unique perspective that you as board members can't have, because you're not in the classrooms on a day-to-day basis. Your role is not to administer the district. Your role is to provide oversight. So having their input, I think, is critically important. And your community members, whether they're parents, whether they're simply citizens, and that's not to make them any less than parents, but they all have a perspective and they all have a vested interest in seeing that the next superintendent continues to move your district to the next level, to continue the success that you have had, and to make sure that the district moves forward in preparing your students for 21st century college and careers, whatever that looks like for the kids in your community. And so we will come in and run those input sessions if it's something that the board identifies that it would like to do. And then I will bring you back all of that input verbatim, so it's not filtered through me. You actually get all of that information. We will put all of that information, we will work with your technology people. I don't actually get on your website and do it. But I would work with your technology people through your board secretary to put the questions on the internet, so that if people are on vacation or can't make it in or don't have an opportunity to attend one of those meetings, they can still weigh in. And so you will get all of that data back as well, whether they come in person. We generally run through the calendar with them, the criteria, to give them an understanding of what the process will look like. I think your community appreciates that. I know that the staff appreciates that, because whenever there's a change in leadership, it can be a little unsettling for your staff and your community. So that brings me to the next C, which is really continuity. You want to make sure that there's a continuity of leadership through the district, so that there are no bumps along the road. Things will look and feel differently with a different leader, but you want to make sure that your process is one that does provide continuity for your superintendent. And that's important once that new person is seated. Really, to sit with the board, we recommend strongly that you do a transition workshop to talk about what are the kinds of communication protocols we're going to use for working with each other, to set some short-term and long-term goals for the first 60 to 90 days, for the first year, as that person establishes himself or herself as the educational leader in your community. And the last, and the 6C, is really about the contract. Contracts, because of the accountability regulations, look dramatically differently today than they did when Dr. Hamilton was hired. There are a lot of pieces to that contract that look differently. One of our labor relations people will come in and do a workshop with the board on, the contract. How do you negotiate a contract? It is different than negotiating with a bargaining unit because it is your educational leader, but there are still pieces that you really need to be aware of, and that's something that we provide for as well. We do a large number of the searches in the state of New Jersey. I've been with the association, I'm going on my 12th year. I just completed, it's hard to believe, I just completed superintendent searches in Middlesex County in both Sayreville and South Brunswick. Also completed a search not too long ago in Manville, as well as completing the search in your sending district in Jamesburg, which was the second search I have done in that district as well. I would be honored and find it a privilege to do your search for you. And I would be happy to respond to whatever questions you have. I know that you have a full agenda, and I appreciate this opportunity to come in and talk to you about the process.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for Gwen today? I know it's a little overwhelming right now, and I'm sure we'll have a lot as we go through the process. Anybody?
It's School Boards Association is a nonprofit organization, is that correct?
That is correct.
I think we just have to absorb everything you said and read our books, and we'll talk at our next meeting.
If you have any questions in the interim, please do not hesitate to give me a call, drop me an email. I would be happy to get back with you, to meet with any committees of the board. I think the most important next step for the board is determining what kind of calendar you would be looking at in terms of, and work backwards. What is your target date for having a new superintendent seated? Keep in mind that you have to allow for someone who is currently employed to give notice to their current employer. By and large, most administrators, as with all teachers and all certificated employees, have to provide at a minimum 60 days notice unless their board releases them. So if you're doing it mid-year, it is unlikely. It's a little different than in the summer, because some boards have gone to writing in 120-day notification requirements in contracts just to protect themselves against being without a superintendent mid-year. So you have to allow for that in the process. Additionally, another new component that has evolved since when we last did the search is that the contract has to be approved by your executive county superintendent prior to appointing a new superintendent. And because the ECSs, there used to be an executive county superintendent in all of the 21 counties, but there are fewer and fewer, and they have combined counties. So the current Middlesex County superintendent is also the executive county superintendent for Mercer, and they have asked, and they have to be granted. Some of them will do it faster, but they get 30 days to review the contract as well. So you have to build that into the calendar as well. So I think you need to identify your target date as to when you would like to have someone seated, and then we can work backward. We generally recommend advertising. Currently with the internet, when I started doing searches 12 years ago, 80% of our candidates came from the print media. And we track where we get our candidates from, whether we ask them on the application to respond to where they became aware of the opening. When I started, it was somewhere between 80 and 90% of the candidates came through print advertisements. It is now down to almost 50-50 between the internet and print advertisement. We still do recommend that you use the Star Ledger, which is the newspaper of record in New Jersey for educational positions. But it is also would be posted on our website, ASBO's website, NJASA, which is the Superintendent's Association website, PSA, Principals and Supervisors. We distribute the ad at all of the 21 county roundtables where superintendents meet monthly. We send it to all of the colleges and universities where there are superintendent institutes such as University of Pennsylvania, TCNJ, Rowan University, Seton Hall, so that it does get very wide exposure. If you decide to do the search through the fall, one of the advantages to doing that is that we also have and post and provide information to attendees at our workshop in October, which is wonderful. There are somewhere between 8,000 and 10,000 people that run through workshop in Atlantic City. In spite of some of those hotels closing, we still anticipate a large turnout for our annual workshop, and that's an opportunity to get your position out there as well. So, I would be happy to come back and work with a committee of the board if you want to work on setting a calendar. But I would encourage you to make those decisions sooner rather than later, just so that you then have a process in place. And I think you'll be much more comfortable once you have done that. So,
Tom.
I think I was out of the room when Ms. Antelis asked about conflicted board members. Are they allowed to participate both in the search and in the voting for the superintendent?
they are not. They are conflicted out of the decision around how to do the search. They are conflicted out of the search process, including all interviews, and they are conflicted out of the vote for the superintendent.
They can't even help. They can't even vote on how we go about it, like whether we're going to.
No, they cannot. That exclusion has gotten larger over time.
With regards to, I believe there's three choices basically: to go with the New Jersey School Boards Association, I guess an outside agency, a headhunter, if you will, and also to do it ourselves.
We could do it ourselves.
If we decide to go with a headhunter, if you will, do we have to put out a request for proposal for that? And do we have to do that for New Jersey school boards?
You wouldn't do it through us. It's a professional service, so you do not need to put out an RFP. You could if you would like to. You certainly can do that. You don't have to do that, is my understanding. And there are some firms out there that do this kind of work. While we do not headhunt, we have extensive networks all across the state. I have counterparts that cover all 21 of the counties. I've lost count of the number of searches that I have done. But we identify, and actually superintendents will contact us, and we will reach out to individuals who we believe would be a good match for the criteria once it's established in your school district.
Anyone else? Okay, then I thank you for coming in.
You're very welcome.
Us today, and I'm sure that we will be talking to you as we move along.
All right. Thank you, Kathy. Thank you.
Travels.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, if I find my agenda.
Missed the best part.
Okay, so that would conclude the board president's report, which I think was very long today. So we will go to other Board of Education business. Is there any other business by any member of the Board of Education? No, Mr. Chiarella.
I just wanted to congratulate our graduates. It was a great ceremony, and I was really proud of them. They were very well behaved, but we have a great set of graduates going out there and entering the world, and I'm very proud of them. So that's it.
It was a really wonderful ceremony. Anyone else? Mr. Minio?
No, have
Mr. Zarneski?
The Middlesex County School Boards Association is having our first meeting of this upcoming school year. It is on September 6th. It's a Saturday. It's going to be held at Servants Diner up in South Plainfield. And it's a regional legal series on, it's also going to cover board leadership. I'm inviting anybody there. There is a small fee involved in that is $20 per person. And I believe that's part of something that the board might be able to pick up on that if somebody wants to go.
Thank you. Did you, Ms. Arminio?
August 23rd will be our next meeting, is that correct? And that's a public,
August 20th?
23rd or 20th?
20th, I believe.
And the
20
23rd.
I'm sorry.
The 20th.
20th and the 23rd.
Yes, we have our
Okay.
regular board meeting on the 20th, and the 23rd is a special board meeting to go over board goals and.
And our budget philosophy.
Yes,
And that's open to the public.
yes.
So that could be a place where the public can participate. Will they have, we'll have a public forum after
I
that?
believe we do.
And we will have the discussion about budget philosophy in public. We will be deliberating that.
Yes.
So I would encourage the public to attend to that one. I know it's a Saturday in the summer, but it's going to be an essential meeting. And before that, I'm wondering, there were two important groups that I thought perhaps should meet before that. And one would be the ad hoc committee. I haven't seen anything going forward with that. Did I miss anything?
No, I believe that Dr. Hamilton had gotten the redistricting report, but I think it went back to for some additional information.
It was revised, and I believe the final version was actually sent to the board, the final version of that.
At what date? So maybe I'll go back in my, it wasn't,
It's been recent, in the last 2-3 weeks, maybe a little longer.
okay.
3-4
If-
weeks.
I think that's, the ad hoc committee and also the strategic plan that we sort of haven't really had any activity on. I think if we can get people to meet before the 23rd of August, and I don't know if that's possible, but I think that would be helpful because that would provide community input on both issues.
It would, but sometimes it's really hard to get people together in the summer because everybody's away and they usually return right before school starts.
But if we can make an attempt, and if we can't do it and we can't get enough participation, perhaps we can postpone it. But the strategic plan I was involved in as a civilian last year, and I think I'd like to see some more action on that one. And I think the ad hoc committee would be helpful to get feedback from people before we do a budget philosophy.
Okay.
So I would ask that you would consider that, and maybe we can put, I mean, the people who are in both the ad hoc committee and the strategic plan committee, to me, are very engaged. They have a stake in it, and they may be really willing to sacrifice, because that's what people in these committees have done. They've really sacrificed their time and energy. So I would imagine that they would be very interested in doing that before August. Thanks.
Anyone else? Mr. Kaufman?
One of the things the board has to consider, and I say the board because I'm going to be excluded out of this search, is we have the ad hoc, we have budget philosophy, we have the strategic planning. You need to decide these very, very core key functions are going to be something the superintendent has to have good buy-in and a good understanding, and quite frankly, part of the package that we're going to be that you're going to be looking to purchase is their vision and their leadership and their look to beyond. So some of these meetings that you're thinking about having, while I totally agree has to be open, let's get everybody engaged, let's get all the players involved, just like we did previously, I think we really need to consider the ones that need to be held off until we have a superintendent that will be able to execute the drives. I would say budget philosophy probably is not one of them, because that's something we would dictate that the superintendent would need. I mean, please jump in at any time, but these are the types of things that we would need to have the superintendent that you choose to really take the ball and run with it.
For my 2 cents, I do think that is very wise. The ad hoc committee is a very important committee. It involves the community, and the recommendations that are included in that report, I think, needs as broad an audience as possible. So I would suggest to the board that you not convene that committee during the summer so that you do not inadvertently exclude people who were part of the initial discussion and who are anticipating this demographic report to anticipate next steps. The Budget Philosophy Committee, I think you're absolutely right, that is kind of dictated by the board, and it can happen over the summer, but the ad hoc committee really should wait, in my opinion.
Yes, Mr. Gorski.
The ad hoc committee, as everyone knows, is studying the district enrollment and the district facilities and planning strategically, and I use that in a long-term sense, to get those two to reconcile. And the strategic nature of the ad hoc committee really is not going to affect the next operational school budget to a large extent. The only parts of that may would be any redistricting costs or any internal renovations to schools. But the great majority of the decisions coming out of ad hoc are strategic in nature. A bond referendum, for example, is not going to affect the 15-16 budget at all at this point.
Anyone else? Okay, seeing nobody else, we will have a closed session resolution. Be it resolved that the Board of Education of the Township of Monroe hereby moves to go into closed session in accordance with the Sunshine Law, Chapter 231 of the Public Laws of 1975, NJSA 10:4-6 through 10:4-21, to discuss the following subjects: legal, board update on RFP for legal services, personnel, employee number 003760, and harassment, intimidation, and bullying, incident number 41. We will no longer be on the agenda. The legal advice for assistant superintendent contract has been removed. The discussion conducted in closed session can be disclosed to the public as such time as a need for confidentiality no longer exists. I need a motion in a second.
So moved.
Mr. Notstein, Ms. Arminio, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Then at this time, the board will move into closed session.
20 minutes?
Take it down.
We will do it in 15. At this time, the board will reconvene into public session, and I believe Dr. Hamilton has a recommendation.
Yes, I'd like to read in a recommendation noted under personnel, item JJ. It is recommended that the Board of Education approve the termination of paraprofessional identified by employee number 003760 by the board effective immediately. The superintendent and the business administrative board secretary are hereby authorized and directed to take all necessary steps to implement this action of the Board of Education.
Mr. Chiarella?
Second.
Second by Mr. Notstein. We have the discussion. Roll call, please.
Mr. Notstein?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Zarneski?
Yes.
Mr. Chiarella?
Yes.
Ms. Arminio?
Yes.
Ms. Antelis?
Yes.
Mrs. Koloponowicz?
Yes.
Madam Board President, motion unanimously passes.
Thank you.
No other action.
No other action? Okay, at this time, we will go back to the public's forum. Anyone from the public wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record. And we will adhere to our 3-minute time limit.
Hi, my name is Liz Falkowski, and I live at 23 Keswick Circle in the Devonshire community, and this is my neighbor.
Hi, Dana Citron, 29 Keswick Circle, and we live in Devonshire right next to the Brookside School. And we're here tonight to discuss the letter from Dr. Hamilton. It's dated June 12th, 2014. It's the letter stating that we will no longer be having bus service from our development. And we wanted to ask the board, what is the process to appeal the decision?
This is it.
This is it?
This is it.
Okay.
So I think, if you don't mind, we'd like to take a few minutes to talk about some of our concerns, which number one is the safety of our kids. Most of you know that Route 522, which is a street that's right along Brookside and Barclay Brook, is a very busy street. It's a 45-mile-an-hour road. Yes, there is a sidewalk that was built that extends our development into Brookside School. However, I have 4 children. I have a 10-year-old, I have a 7-year-old, and 2 6-year-old twins. And I'm not comfortable just letting them go to walk to school. I think that's a really busy road. There's no barricade. There's no fence at all. And I'm afraid that that's a very busy road. And although there will be a crossing guard at Brookside, it's still quite a distance for them to go on their own, unsupervised. We also are concerned about the safety from the standpoint of the the neighborhood in the surrounding area. Dana did look up some information that there was actually a few registered sex offenders in the surrounding area, as well as a couple of group homes that have mentally unstable individuals who, from time to time, actually quite often, walk down Route 522 waving at everybody. Now, I have no idea if they're harmful, harmless, I'm not sure, but they're continuously walking down that road. In fact, any security guard at the school will tell you many times there's been occasions when they wander onto the school property and then have to be escorted off. So we're concerned that those individuals are going to be walking where our children are walking. So from the standpoint of safety, we do have those concerns. We also have concerns about logistics. Now, we know from a day-to-day standpoint of dropping off our kids at school that there are major traffic backups that occur going into Brookside. So we see for all of our children, which I think could potentially be, I don't know, Dana, how many do you think? Maybe 50, 60, 70 some odd children. We have a large development with lots of children walking to school. Even though there's a crossing guard there who's going to cross them to Brookside, that is going to create major traffic backups on Route 522 because all the cars are going to be trying to turn in while they're constantly being stopped because our children are walking across the street. Also, with the Brookside Circle, with all the cars going in, they're going to have a hard time getting out with the crossing guard continuously stopping all of those in and outs. And there's only one exit and one entrance into Brookside. So I just think that's going to cause major congestion in the morning when there's, am I cut? Is that my 3 minutes?
You are. You should have had 3 minutes each.
I'm
and that
sorry.
would have
Maybe
been
we
even
should have done
better.
it instead. So I don't want to take Dana's time away, but I guess what we're trying to say is we would like to appeal the decision. We're not happy about it. I have at least 11 or 12 other families that are part of our community that have also signed off that they also agree with what we're saying. And that's just people that we've spoken to verbally. But I can imagine that almost everyone in our community feels the same way. And we also have questions on why this is happening. We're assuming it's a financial decision that was made, but we're wondering how much money is it really saving. We've been told that there was a new position that was posted that's going to accommodate these kids. So we just have questions. We felt like we got the letter, but really no explanation for why this is happening. And are we the only community that this is happening to? Because for
Mr.
Okay.
Gorski answer those questions?
Yes, thanks. Dr. Alvich, would you mind joining me in the address of this question? Dr. Alvich is the principal at Brookside School, and that is absolutely correct. This was a decision that was first presented to the Building Grounds Transportation Committee. I believe it also went to the Finance Committee. I don't recall the exact budget savings offhand, but I think it was in the neighborhood of $200,000 or $300,000. And as you're probably aware, there are sidewalks and there are plans in place to ensure the safety of the students, which is everybody in the district's job number one. And before you appeal to the board, I would ask you to please stop by my office, speak with Jerry Tague, our facility director, Dr. Alvich. We'll look at maps. We'll understand the walking nature of the school trip from walking instead of driving. And the school district does have transportation efficiency standards that are set by the state that we have to abide by. And when we looked at all the routes along with our transportation director, this was the most obvious low-lying fruit to pick because your development is right on the border of the school.
Right. So are we the only development that's been discontinued for
No,
Brookside
no,
and Barclay Brook?
There was yours and one in Mill Lake.
Right, but just for our school, we're the only one for Barclay Brook and Brookside. Is that correct?
Yes. Yes. Dr. Alvich?
The letter, Mrs. Mahoney and I worked
Use
on
your
the letter.
microphone,
Sorry. Mrs. Mahoney and I had worked with Dr. Hamilton to write the letter and to plan for the arrival of the students. So yes, all of the Brookside, Barclay Brook students walking from Devonshire will come into Brookside exactly the way you presented it. There will be a crossing guard at the driveway. It is the same driveway that parents will be pulling in to drop their students off also. So there is a traffic guard, there will be a traffic guard there. All of the students will come into Brookside School, into the foyer. They will all wait there. A staff member from Barclay Brook will meet them in the foyer, take attendance, and then walk them through the bus parking lot over to Barclay Brook.
Which we understand, because that was spelled out just like
Right.
you said in the letter. But do you have a concern about the logistics of all the traffic that's going to be stopped? Because there's only one way that the kids can cross. There's a lot of kids. They're not all crossing at one time.
Right, they're not
gonna
all gonna be crossing.
staggered. I mean, there's already
Let me suggest this, if I may, just so that the dialogue is more conducive to getting to solutions. If I could ask you, Dr. Alvich, to convene a meeting of affected parents, you and Aaron, and kind of talk about what the logistics are, what some of the safety precautions are, and then engage Mike in that conversation once you've had that meeting, because some of the concerns that you raised, many of which are valid and understandable, but there's another side to the equation that I think would be helpful for parents to hear as well. So having that conversation in a more appropriate environment may lead to a different recommendation, or may allay some of your fears or concerns, and this could ultimately be resolved in a different fashion.
I appreciate that, Dr. Hamilton. I think that was another one of the points we wanted to bring up, that if we weren't able to change the decision, we wanted to be able to work with the administrators to come up and voice our concerns and work on something. Because I know a lot of our parents are going to be concerned about letting their kids walk, especially the young ones. What happens is they're going to want to drive them, and there's no parking as it is already. So we're even thinking, is it possible that we could have some sort of like a designated area for the Devonshire families who want to drive their kids, so they're not fighting for spots that don't exist? Because
We're concerned about we're also concerned about being able to take our children to Barclay Brook. The parents who don't wish to drop our children off at Brookside, we would like to have some sort of a plan in place where we can drop them off at Barclay Brook without having to fight for a parking spot and bring them in and sign them in every day, and then sign them out at the end of the day.
Ma'ams, may I recommend that we
And I know Mrs. Mahoney has been thinking about this and trying to work something out. So absolutely, I will send out a letter to all the Devonshire families at the beginning of August.
Thank you.
Okay?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Anyone else from the public?
Good evening, Steve Ryback, 23 Riviera. Dr. Hamilton, congratulations and
Thank
best
you,
of
sir.
luck to you. And Mr. Vitrello, Mr. Higgins, best of luck to you, and congratulations to our cheerleaders as well. Just a couple issues. For me, this was a potential red flag. When you mentioned the self-insurance for the $49 for the iPads, did we have enough money in that self-insurance fund initially to cover any damage that we might have experienced?
Mike, I'm going to turn it over to you.
I believe in the initial year of deployment that there was insufficient monies collected from the $49 to cover the repairs. Dr. Gorman, am I correct with that?
Can't be because there's money left over now.
Yeah, no, the initial year of $49 times about 2,000 kids, doing quick math, yields about $80,000. That was enough for the first year. The second year, AppleCare Plus kicked in because of the refresh, which began a whole different process. That was one of the reasons of the refresh. Then any broken iPad would just be to activate AppleCare Plus, which is 2 breakages per iPad, was $49. We still have leftover money from the 3 years accrued, plus next year's $49 per fee would equate to the equivalent approximately of the new warranty or insurance, but we have to talk about that with the finance committee to talk about options and the possibilities that exist to keep them insured against damages.
Yes, the AppleCare came in after the refresh and was a much better option than what we had.
Okay. This is a caution, just a red flag for me. I also, in remaining time, I'd just like to emphasize what Ms. Arminio said about the steering committee, and also question about bringing community members as volunteers. A few years ago, I had wanted to volunteer in the schools. I was told that you don't allow community members to volunteer, and I know that was in the strategic plan about bringing community members to volunteer. So I had a question about that, and the community outreach guide, where that might be. I know that was also in the strategic plan. In communications, you said create flexible focus groups that are representative of various constituencies of the community. I don't know if those are functioning. So I just wanted to get that out before you cut me off on time.
community members can volunteer. There is a process you have to go through for fingerprints. Which
Oh,
is
I
one
was
of the-
willing to, absolutely, but I was told that there were
policy.
no volunteers allowed in the district.
There's a board policy on volunteers. I don't remember the number of the series right now, but there is a board policy. And you simply need to contact the building that you wish to volunteer in. They will direct you through the process and send you to central office where they'll get you get your fingerprints done.
Well-
and there's actually a reduced fee for community volunteers. They don't charge.
That would have
the
been
full-
fine for the fingerprinting. I was willing to do all of that, but I was told that the district has a policy of no volunteers. So maybe that's something you might want to look into, because I'm sure there's a lot of people.
I'm answering your question. That is the correct information.
Okay.
There is a policy that allows volunteers.
Okay, well, maybe other people need to know that work in the district, okay? I don't know about my question about the community outreach guide.
What is your
That's
question?
in the strategic plan, that there's supposed to be a community outreach guide, and I was wondering if it's ready, if it's done.
It is not. I know the committee met twice. I believe it was twice the committee met and provided updates. The facilitators and co-facilitators of that committee provided updates for the last status report on the strategic plan, but I don't know exactly when those meetings were off the top of my head.
And also a suggestion, Dr. Hamilton, when the ad hoc committee gets that report, I mean, when the report is ready, do you think it could be distributed to the ad hoc committee in advance of their meeting so we have some opportunity to digest it?
I think that's reasonable.
Great, thank you very much.
Mike, you want to take note of that? You want to take note of that? Yes.
Anyone else from the community, public?
Corinne Masters, 9 Michaela Court. My first question is, I see for the tag teachers, who's going to be the third grade LAL teacher at Oak Tree? It's not listed. It's only second grade and first grade, or second grade math and LAL, and then third grade math.
I have
There's
no
no
idea
third grade
off the top of
LAL.
my head. I don't know off the top of my head. Do you know?
What page?
Are you talking about going into fourth grade?
No, going into third grade. So no one's been hired, or you just didn't, because no one's on the list, just forgot?
Right. Give Barbara a call tomorrow. She can look it up.
Okay,
for you.
I just went, okay. You saw my time, I don't want to lose time. Okay, so that's my first thing. My second thing is, I know I'm talking about class sizes again, but I know, like, as of today, the third grades, the smallest third grade has 25 at Oak Tree, and the first grades have 25 and 26. Are we going to get any more sections before September?
I have communicated with Mrs. Dinsmore that we will watch those numbers. She did get another section already added to the budget that we were able to absorb in another school that was reduced.
For what grade?
I'm not sure what grade she ultimately put that other. I want to say she left, didn't she?
Yeah.
I think it was first, but I'm not entirely sure.
So that means you're
off
8
the
first
top of
grades
my
now?
head. I think so, but don't make me give you an answer without being sure. And we'll watch those numbers over the summer, and if they increase, then we're not going to let the classes get to 27, 28 kids, obviously.
Well, yeah, but we did last year. That's my concern. I'm just afraid, it's going to be January and we're going to be at 31.
No, we've already made that commitment that I would come back to the board if we needed to add another section.
Okay.
So now Dennis can come back to the board if we need another section.
So we really don't want 31 kids in first grade. Just FYI, okay. So then I want to thank you for all your hard work over the last few years.
Thank you.
It's been very nice getting to know you and to working with you. And I want to thank Mr. V for you leaving Applegarth. I'm sure we're in good hands, and we will look forward to having you back, but we appreciate your sacrifice for, the rest of the children in the district. So
Thank you very
that
much,
was all.
Corinne.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public?
Lou Masters, and I'm Michaela. It's real easy to agree to stuff now that you're only going to be here a year or another week or so. Oh, that's what I was laughing about. I'm like, yeah, he's agreeing to everything now. Just a point. I want to give some credit. I was looking at P about the grant, the Agricultural Society grant. Over at Applegarth, in case you didn't know, there is a garden right next to the sunroom. Mrs. Hills, I think, footed the bill for that entirely, and it's a pretty beefy garden. I know Mr. Chiarello's been over there. It's huge. It rivals oak trees. So I just want to make sure everybody knows that she's been really putting a lot of time and effort into that over the summer. We see her there over the summer doing some stuff too. So again, I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that. The second item, we had, I guess, and again, I just want some clarification, 2 board members that were remote today. That were on the phone, right?
Teleconference.
Teleconference. I heard most of the, now by policy standards, they would have to be ill, correct?
Yes.
But they weren't.
Right.
So we overrode the
We
policy.
We waived the policy this evening so that we would have enough votes to appoint the interim.
Okay, I'm just trying to get it straight. And apparently, I guess the only issue I have is we had a board member on remote that by their own admission couldn't hear correctly, correct? I mean,
Yes.
that's pretty obvious, right? And also didn't have the agenda with them,
Did not have the agenda.
but they were voting.
Yes.
Okay, I'm the only one with a problem with that?
Mr. Gorski?
Mr. Masters, the agenda was sent to every board member in advance, and Mr. Prezioso did go through the agenda because I talked with him about that earlier. And I was satisfied from my dialogue asking for the votes that they could hear, but where they had trouble was where there was some board member dialogue that was far from the microphone and it was coming through the speaker. So you're coming from speakers into a microphone and going through voice over IP. So that does leave a lot to be desired, but as the board secretary, I'm satisfied that that was fine for voting requirements.
Okay, but you're also considering that he probably couldn't hear discussion, correct?
To the extent of that, I don't know. You're speculating. We'd have to really inquire of him to find out the degree, but I was satisfied from the way they voted that they could, otherwise they shouldn't have voted.
I disagree, speculation. Obviously, we heard many requests for repeats.
But if he voted affirmatively, then you would assume that he had enough information to vote affirmatively. I don't want to argue about it, but, I was satisfied.
We're not arguing, we're discussing it. I think it's a very contentious point that should have been discussed before voting was done. But that's it. Thank you.
Excuse me. Anyone else from the public wishing to speak? Okay, seeing no one, we will close public forum. Our next scheduled Board of Education meeting, Wednesday, August 20th, 2014, 7 o'clock p.m. at Monroe Township High School. Motion to Mr. Kaufman. Is there a second? By Ms. Arminio. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Meeting is adjourned.